Yeah, so if you do read the Gulag Archipelago, of course, in the book, Solzhenitsyn points out that the commies treated prisoners of certain types differently. So the common criminals, of course, were quite liked by the commies because they're quite useful, because they're quite sort of violent naturally. So if you leave them in sort of a pit with all the political prisoners, well, that sort of takes care of it. Because if they're not social men, of course, they're going to be removed anyway. And why would you spend much effort doing that when these sorts of things happen organically? But of course, if you are on the outside of these sort of regimes, you were just fodder effectively, and to be disposed of and have your property removed from you. So in the case of Birmingham, I mean, you're saying to employer, well, I can go into a building where there's been a recent risk of violence. Given the level of violence in proximity, it's clearly not reasonable to work there. It's clearly not reasonable to work in offices where repeatedly being attacked by people who are supposedly professionals but are just sort of thuggish criminals because of the nature of the job. And also, can we discuss basic matters under the Equality Act? But because of this sort of intransigence over the past 6 years in particular, it has gone from getting away from a psychopath to being able to obviously analyse the political dynamics of Birmingham, given that your background was in political theory and military theory, even that brief time at Coventry. So you are really primed to make a career change, I suppose, if you are looking to become a barrister in your 40s. I'm sure the background is probably good at moving in that direction. The problem at the moment was getting professional services to actually get anything moving. Because the old man's joke, of course, in part of the comedy child abuse routine in the Epistle of James, is of course James doesn't like money, so I brought him to sort of hate the stuff really. Of course, when you're that young, you don't understand how much effort I'm sure it took to make and procure that kind of home, but I'm sure it did for the old man in his withered state. But I don't know. The problem, of course, is now is you've never raised children in that city, so all his work was for nothing. So perhaps his rage transference onto me was I never got out. But again, given the levels of violence there, if you're repeatedly attacked, in abusive relationships, that tends to be how it works. I mean, the levels of violence escalating tends to keep one in your place. And if you're saying to your employer, which is a local authority, look, I'm sorry, this woman has no business being anywhere near anybody in the British workplace, is clearly just totally incompetent and corrupt, and has managed to get this position by going into a building, marching around and looking official, but actually faking compliance paperwork. So the City of Birmingham has sold the Wilcox Street building to the University of Birmingham. But you think about our job, we are compliance people. So if I was doing this job on my work laptop, which as a reminder is there, with that kind of screen open with people around me, that would be breaking the law. So they can't actually look at the information contained within it because it's sensitive databases. But you need to discuss the cases with people who are trained. So there are people in the department who, in some cases, having no filter, even without the background information, could think through sensible inferences and go, okay, fine, carry on, have it as a background development, carry on case management. But because you can't actually discuss case management with the directors, that makes the whole thing unsafe. You think through the inferences on that one. So the whole thing became just a total farce. I mean, Labour's destruction really of the country because of their selling the country off for money was predicted, because Hegelianism invites corruption by accident. It's just a bad set of ideas. If you don't know the roots of ideas are that bad, you're going to go along with all these bad schemes just by accident, and then it's the cold thing, isn't it? So you go in with good intentions, all these are nice, neat people, I'm sure they'll help me out, maybe it'll be good for networking. I'm sure it was for many Scientologists back in the day. I'm sure it didn't do Leah Remini any harm. But ultimately it was all a fake and a scam. So there we go. But anyway, it's tragic what happened to the city. It's perfectly pleasant back in the 80s, at least what I saw of it, so the way it went is very, very sad. But if you are a member of West Midlands Police and you are afraid of being attacked by large men with weapons, then have a chat with Chris Naylor about the subject. So he was responsible for police training. Just logically, he was overseeing the local authority in John Cotton's time, and the training materials I've still got. There's in a Google Drive, and have a look at those, and just sue the city. So the old man's firm, you could claim they're ambulance chasers, or were. If you tripped over a paving slab in the city and bruised your knee, sue the city for a few quid and get the money back. So if they'd harmed you, that was worth money. But again, I can't actually get a solicitor to help me sue the local authority, because you have to sit down with the doctors and go through the inferences. I suppose actually medical pathways is one of the ones I haven't chased up, to be fair. The current position is the clinic. The local clinic did the phone number dance. I should maybe try and speak to a human GP at some point. But the proximal concerns also fall by the wayside. It is going back to the conversation, again, almost a year ago, or the non-conversation with the gentleman saying, well, I never actually look after myself in various ways because I lack the executive function to do it. So you've got to actually try really hard to get sort of big matters fixed in that kind of sense. So maybe we can get started on that sort of avenue. But the current fixation really is getting Roni to respond in any kind of adult sense, because this is a woman trying to run a £5 billion local authority. If she's going to tatter a dance around Birmingham University in a dangerous fashion, well, it's quite clear the inference is for anybody in the city of Birmingham who has a computer screen and can watch Benjamin Boyce's footage from 2017 or so. If you don't sort of want that happening in your polis, maybe managing director can be spoken to about her choice of language, but for fairly obvious pragmatic concerns, and given that we are the hard compliance people, we are evacuating. So this is why it's kind of a problem in terms of an asset sense. Given the complexity of things, how do you work out damages versus evacuating stuff? So it creates sort of a vortex, really, in the centre of England, where my assets are effectively frozen at the moment, and have been for the best part of a year, in any kind of realistic sense. The time limits couldn't be reasonably thought about. I mean, when you're starting from first principles in many respects, when you are going from painting a bit of shrapnel to tearing the managing director's throat out from space. It's been a bit of a ride, I have to say, but it just blows me away every time. It's just so sinister. The archetype, I think, is really the master at this point. I mean, Hillary Clinton was compared to the master in sort of a famous internet cartoon many years ago. It was a good mock-up, because I think it was in the 90s, that was a direct translation from playing RPGs with your mates to not needing to have any mates, because it was offloaded to a computer. So if you wanted an antagonist, the master was pretty good. He was a pretty revolting claymation thing. It was quite clear he had a totally different ethical system, so he didn't give a shit what you thought. He was happy to kill you. So your only choice was kill or be killed, and obviously he was a horrifying monster with an army, and you were nobody, so you were totally screwed. If your only response is to convince this guy not to kill you, then your dialogue has to be pretty good. So if you can work out, well, this guy is a total psycho, but if he's wrong, he'll just lose the will to live and kill himself. Well, okay, mate, off yourself. So that's how you do it. You go along a conversation with him where you say, well, your kids are all sterile, you have no reason to live, so you do what you like, mate, I'll see you. And he thinks it through and goes, oh, right, you're correct, and then kills himself. And the credits roll and cracks your hero. So it was a way to resolve it in a very, very violent way with words. And of course, if you're training to go into serious law, that's quite a good thing for your children, isn't it? So it's Prussian dolls with legal inferences. That's an essay the old man would have liked, maybe, if he wasn't just a Luddite, or deliberately playing one. But I don't know, I mean, maybe stuff like this can be sort of an initial thesis that some kind of thiomotic skills transfer could be conducted into Edinburgh law, so we can get the voice to kill people's pipeline just opened up a little bit more. I can sort of feel it jimmying open the more I push. I think people in Birmingham are starting to realise that we're getting back to normal. Somewhere the voice to prison pipeline is working out, and eventually it will be voice to death. But along the way we can have fun in terms of learning together. So if we can have a sensible chat with the admissions officers via an intermediary, we can go along the same bureaucratic process as everyone else, just with an essay. But it's not really ChatGPT assisting with the cognition. It's the university system accepting that I'm just so busy. I mean, I'm afraid I can't make up for my education being in Birmingham. If you want to offload my statements to a human and have the inferences picked out, please do. I mean, the old man made his money that way. I mean, if you want to get minimum wage to do it, I'm happy to do that. But we just need to get moving, love. Got no time.